I'd like to share with you an example of one of the clients that I worked with over the years. And I met a young lady that had been given a responsibility for a fairly large scale wellness program at a Baby Bell. And she had something like 125 different locations that she was responsible for. And I had met her at a national conference. And as we were chatting, she basically told me she was very unhappy with her approach and the approach of the program to the delivery of wellness programs at various sites around the region in which this Baby Bell was operating. And one of the things that she repeatedly said to me was that the quality of what was being done was very uneven. And that in some of the locations they did a good job and the people scored the programs very highly. And in others, they were really perfunctory and essentially did an expedient kind of tactical approach to putting on the wellness program, which really resulted in some fairly low scores. She began to get feedback from some of her senior managers and her direct report that they were unhappy with the unevenness of the program. And so she was struggling with, what do I do about that? Do I do training? Do I try to set up a system that assures some higher amount of quality of programming? So as I talked with her, I really proposed to her as a consultant that I would be glad to help her solve the problem and walk through some solutions. And one of the solutions that I mentioned was the ability to use a standardized tool that would be a worksheet to help the individual wellness volunteers and staff in the various locations to be able to plan the programs more effectively and with some consistency in what issues were addressed. So she resonated with that. She basically said, "Go ahead, let's do some consulting. Appreciate your help with this." And I went off and essentially developed a tool that was used by her when I came back and gave her some time to go through it and gave her the ability to kind of step forward in some incremental steps of how she would approach this whole issue for the next cycle of programming that was coming up within about 5 months from the time that we had been doing the consulting and I had been doing the consulting with her. So what we're going to be doing next is I want to share with you the tool and talk a little bit about the kinds of issues that are covered and what kind of potential effect it can have on being able to help anyone who's doing a wellness program in multi-sites and not quite sure how to go about getting standardization across their enterprise and how that tool can be used to help you accomplish that goal. Now, as we do with each of the videos, you can go ahead and pause the video and use the link that's identified in the description for this video and then retrieve this particular tool. It's a one-page tool and you can download it, potentially print it off and follow along with me as we really go through it. Now, to begin with, you can see that it is set up so that anyone that's completing a wellness activity of any kind can fill in the upper area here, which identifies, the desired date for the activity, the issues around the follow-up and location, any room assignments or any site assignments or special population circumstances. Then for each of those activities that are identified up here, we essentially recommend that you go through and have them go through a standardized process for doing the planning. And that starts with your ability to look at the focus or the topic. And that should be related back to one of your targets, behavioral targets that you're looking at for your wellness program, and hopefully linked back to a goal that your program has as an explicit and formal goal. The date and time are essentials. The issue of location and space needs. Is the space adequate for what you anticipate in terms of participation, and whether you're going to be doing exercise activities or stretching or any kind of activities that have special space needs attached to them. The fourth issue that you have here is signage details. And is the location, the proposed location for the activity, in a position and a place where people can find it easily? Or is it buried into a complex of office spaces or conference rooms of different types? So that's the issue of how much signage you really need for this particular activity. Any marketing and promotion activities is usually also important. How often and how many times are you going to offer the information about it? Are you going to use posters? Are you going to use emails? And are you using the best approach that you can in terms of getting email effectiveness up? There's also the issue of whether you have an incentive feature. So in general, if programs, particularly on-site programs, are part of an incentive program, that's usually a much more effective way of being able to organize and structure your program. Then the next area is the issue of who are the leaders and or instructors or facilitators. Will there be a moderator? Will you or someone else on the wellness team open the session and close the session? Then there's the issue of, is it part of a series or a theme? So we've talked about in the past campaign versus episodic or single topic focus types of approaches, and campaigns are usually more effective. That usually involves some education up front, an intervention that the people take part in. It could have a test attached to it of some kind, self-test or any other kind of test procedure, and then an intervention to actually help people with the behavior, and then some sort of follow-up. So that kind of issue of whether it's as part of a series or a theme is important. In addition, you have the issue of any potential liability. So your risk manager and those that are concerned about any liabilities need to feel comfortable with the planning that you've done around eliminating any liability issue. Next area is the next event linkage. And that is when you have people in a room, you don't want them to go away without finding out about the next thing. So your ability to hand out a flyer or to provide a reminder or have a sign-up sheet with emails that they can identify, but taking action that allows this particular activity to be connected to another activity that comes up. There's also the issues around budget details. So the idea that you have to really kind of make sure that this particular activity, the instructor fees and or any equipment or supplies or food charges, those things are taken care of and part of your budget. The next area is the equipment and supplies. So if there's anything special that needs to be done in terms of being able to provide supplies for the participants and for the people using that particular activity, then that's an issue that needs to be addressed up front. And then your ability to look at food and beverage. We usually need to provide some sort of food and beverage option for people. It just is one of those enhancers of participation. So it's a general question that you can ask. And again, there's also the budget issue or whose budget it comes out of. Then there's a concept called AMSO. We cover that more in depth in other videos, but the idea is that your program needs to have the ability to deal with the awareness of the specific issue that you're targeting and the topic area or focus area that you are using for this particular session. The M stands for an ability to motivate beyond just the intrinsic motivation. About 20% of our working populations are intrinsically motivated for wellness, but that means that 80% are not intrinsically motivated and need an extrinsic source of motivation. And that's why we use the incentives, but there also are other strategies we can use besides incentives, but incentives are one of the most powerful and easy to do. So the M in AMSO is, does my program have the ability to have additional motivation for people to actually take part and follow through on the behavior that's the focus of this particular intervention? And then the S has to do with the skill acquisition. Does that session, is it going to help people actually do the thing that you want them to do and they want to do? That's part of the awareness, motivation, and the skills to essentially do it or carry it out. And then finally, the O is the opportunity to practice. And that's where we have to have some way of being able to help people structure their redoing and re-energizing the activity downstream, down through time. And that's where we form a habit. So habit formation needs that opportunity to practice. As we practice, we begin to get a lot more muscle memory, and then we are in a much better position to actually have a habit that gets formed. So AMSO is shorthand for the key elements of what helps make more short-term wellness behavior and ultimately long-term wellness behavior. Next area is evaluation activity, and usually most of the time it's in on-site activities. You can use an end of session evaluation instrument with the same index. It uses 10-point scale, 5-point or 7-point, but whatever you do, use the same one, and then average the value that participants give each of the sessions that you carry out the evaluation for. That also allows you something to report back to management in terms of their ability to know that the sessions are well liked by the people who are completing them. And then finally, the use of the evaluation data that you collect is the issue that really speaks to what am I going to do with this after I collect it? Is it simply going to be collected and I'm the only one that'll see it? Or is it something that is actually fed back up to my management staff? So these particular 16 items are the items that we believe, and my experience tells me and has told me, these are what helps you have an effective and successful wellness program. And then there's a tentative plans, and then there's the issue of the follow-up that has to do with anything that needs additional attention in terms of the planning of a specific activity. So if you can review this particular tool with the individuals that are responsible for carrying out and organizing and executing the wellness program in different sites, then you're much more likely to have a more consistent and standardized approach to wellness. And it will give you a much better ability to say that your wellness program is in fact being implemented in a wise manner across your enterprise. It also helps meet the issues that you confront in terms of senior management about the wellness program. Now let's take a look at a few of the questions that you might want to ask yourself. First of all, do other individuals or groups put on-site wellness activities together for their sites? So I want to know, first of all, are there people out there that are struggling with this or could use some sort of help in terms of standardized approaches to planning their programs? Second question is, are these programs well attended and effective? And if they are, then you don't have to worry so much about this. But if they're not, then you need to be looking at some of these kinds of issues. And the next question is, how important is a standardized way of planning on-site wellness programs for your organization? And if it's not important, then don't worry about this. But if you're really struggling with some of these issues of participation, effectiveness, consistency, poor feedback, that's one of the things that you probably need to take a look at. And will you need to mandate the use of this tool with your remotely located wellness staff and volunteers? And you may have to do that in order to actually upgrade the general quality of wellness programming going on for those out of headquarters employees. And do you want to train wellness staff and volunteers in the use of a planning worksheet like this? My experience has been that when I have people go through a exercise where they get to plan a program and then use this as the tool that they use to help identify what elements should be in the program and kind of organize it, connect it to other activities, that activity itself tends to help them get more familiar, and they become able to use this. A few more hints about and some tips about how you might use this is this approach takes a little more time and intentionality, but it will generally produce more short and long-term wellness behavior. And that's what we're going for, because that's what makes a difference. The use of this worksheet will enhance the quality of your wellness program offerings. And it's a good idea to ask your remotely located wellness staff and volunteers that are using this tool to send you a copy of their completed tool, because that basically puts them into accountability and helps you make sure that they continue to use something like this once you've gone through your training activity. And it's a good idea to look for ways to adopt and adapt this tool more closely to fit your organizational approach to employee wellness. In summary, a standardized way of planning on-site wellness activities will very likely improve the quality and effectiveness of your employee wellness program. You don't want to just put on activities without really considering their ultimate impact. Thanks for watching this video, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. New videos are published weekly. And for more information, search for WellCert. WellCert is the premier professional certification for wellness program leaders. Be sure to check out this training program if you want to improve your wellness programming skills. And remember, delivering great employee wellness programming is a high calling. Let's do our best to get the job done. Good luck with your wellness programming efforts.